of people injured, multiple of people injured, multiple people still trapped. Multiple of people injured, multiple people still trapped. Multiple of people injured, multiple people still trapped. There's gas lines that are leaking. Power lines are on the ground. If you can stay at your house, please stay home. Our community has been greatly impacted by tornadoes.
Thank you for joining us on a very busy morning here at the AccuWeather Network. I'm meteorologist Laura Velasquez.
And I'm meteorologist Bernie Rayno.
The storms hit just before 1 a.m. Central Time in Nashville. Authorities have now reported 9 people have died across the state of Tennessee. Nashville fire crews have reports of at least 40 buildings that have collapsed. Some of those buildings do have apartments in them, so more than just one housing unit. On top of that, reports are that 47,000 homes and businesses are without power. 4 substations are completely offline, and police are asking people to stay off the roads if possible. Speaking of the roads, I want to show you what the traffic looks like right now around Nashville. Parts of 155, parts of the 440 loop, parts of Interstate 40 significantly impacted. Basically, you can see where all of these red markers are indicating where either the road is completely closed or you're basically getting no travel along it. And this is because of storm damage. So just looking at this, you can almost see the direction in which this very powerful storm moved through the overnight time frame. And if we zoom in a little bit closer here, this area between Lebanon and Mount Juliet closed. It's about a 20-mile section of Interstate 40. The reason this is closed is because of debris on the roadway and overturned semi-tractor trailers.
Yeah. Let me show you what happened here. We always begin with the upper levels of the atmosphere. I want to show you the water vapor loop here. We had a strengthening jet stream. You can see that across the central part of the United States. But that in itself is not why we have the tornadoes. It was a combination of all of the ingredients. All of this white that you see, this is moisture across Tennessee, and track where it came from, right from the eastern Pacific. So we had a tropical feed of moisture coming in. We had this strengthening jet stream. Boy, you can see this across the central part of the United States. The other thing I want to draw your attention to is across northern Arkansas, right in here. There was a vigorous piece of energy that pushed across northern Arkansas and into northern Kentucky or western Kentucky late last night and into the early morning hours. And what that did was it intersected with the moisture in place and all of that energy. How do we measure energy in the atmosphere? And you need energy to produce strong severe thunderstorms. Wind. I want to show you here, we had all of this wind across the Nashville area in the dark purple, and we had some blues as well. So we were looking at increasing winds in the middle and upper part of the atmosphere. And Laura, whenever you get those increasing winds in a very moist atmosphere, that's what helped produce those strong thunderstorms yesterday.
And of course, Bernie, you and I have said, and we've noticed time and time again, that it's when the storm is in the process of strengthening that we tend to see the most intense weather. And of course, this tornado or this series of storms that came across the mid-state of Tennessee comes just 1 year after devastating storms rocked the southeast.
Yeah, that's right, Laura. AccuWeather's Blake Naftail takes a look back at the string of storms that decimated parts of Alabama.
Never seen nothing like it out here. I've been living here 40 years.
On March 3rd, 2019, a series of severe thunderstorms produced 41 tornadoes across northern Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, and the Florida Panhandle. The threat for severe weather and tornadoes was forecast well in advance, warnings arriving in waves through the morning and early afternoon.
As soon as we started hearing sirens, they told us, get in the hallway, we gotta go.
Many heeded those warnings as a long-track violent tornado impacted the community of Beauregard, Alabama. 23 people killed, 97 injured. The storm continued northeast into Talbot County, Georgia.
We were just looking, out in the distance for like a small tornado.
Residents not realizing what they were looking at until it was nearly upon them.
All of a sudden it got real quiet and it got like real foggy. The wind picked up and it just like turned real dark gray for about a couple minutes and then moved on.
Damage was immense for the rural Alabama and Georgia communities directly impacted.
It's been somewhat traumatic, and not somewhat, but totally traumatic. And We've experienced a number of sporadic moments of pain and tragedy, but never anything of this proportion.
Many areas of Beauregard remained closed off to the public for days after the tornado. Residents forced to lodge at community centers, hotels, or with relatives before returning to assess damage.
I think a lot of people are still walking around shell-shocked.
Food, clothing donations, and volunteers began arriving to community centers mere hours after the storms rolled through.
It's been a wonderful display of compassion, empathy, and people working together to accomplish a task from all over, coast to coast.
A year later, some areas have rebuilt while others continue to recover. Emotional scars still heavy for most. As the threat for severe weather looms midweek, the Southeast remains weather aware, ready for the next time the skies become threatening. For AccuWeather, I'm Blake Naftel.
Yeah, Blake, and we're watching that next thread as we go over the next 24 hours. Here's what's going to cause it first in Texas as we go through tonight. This upper level low south of Tucson. Look at all of the moisture in our water vapor loop. All of this white, that's moisture in the middle and upper part of the atmosphere. And as I talked about, you can trace that moisture coming in from the Pacific, so plenty of moisture with that tropical feed. Once this upper low catches up with the moisture, that's when we'll start to get thunderstorms to really blossom. That'll be tonight across West Texas. And then as that storm presses across the northern Gulf of Mexico Wednesday night, the area of rain and thunderstorm in the severe weather threat will shift east and occur mostly north of that storm. And an interesting point here, the threat for heavy rain as well as severe weather will be well south of Nashville and much of Tennessee. It's going to be...
Last night, I had a feeling that we was going to have a bad storm. I had hooked up all my weather-related alert alarms about 2 days before, putting batteries and plugging up stuff. And it had gotten so intense here, I could feel that whatever it was lethal. Especially whenever the winds got up. Not a whole lot, but it started hailing. And of course, anytime there's hail, that indicates a strong disturbance in the upper atmosphere. So I immediately got up, got my PJs on, and went outside and opened up the pole barn and put my car in there. That way, if it was to have come a major hailstorm, maybe it wouldn't have gotten beaten to death. Because that's my only decent vehicle towards getting out here riding around. But I knew that we was just on the outer edges of something south of us that come over that was probably in the process of building at that time, that took another 2 to 3 more hours before it finally hit over there in the Nashville area. And the way that I understand it, Nashville is tore all to pieces. I think it's one of the worst storms that Nashville has ever been hit on. Once more, it's all part of the intensifying movement of global warming, that we're seeing these radical weather events occur more frequently now than ever. And I don't know, I just got a gut feeling that this year is going to be a bad year for tornado outbreaks. Anytime you have a winter that has been as warm as this winter has been, it automatically should throw a red flag in what the South is fixing to have to experience, or I say the South, the country is fixing to have to experience here in the USA. Whenever you have the weather that has become this abnormal, this abstract, get ready, prepare for it, because I've had several people come up to me this winter and say, man, we're having a really decent winter this winter, ain't we? And my reflection was always come back, yeah, but we'll probably pay for it later. And that's just exactly what I'm afraid fixing to happen. Just like the people up in Nashville, Tennessee, is paying for it now towards having an abstract, unusual, warm winter. Anytime the system becomes out of sync, like our system is out of sync, you can expect some demoralizing events that's going to happen on a weather nature event that is going to be extreme, because the atmosphere is literally wreaking the difference today in comparison to what it was 40, 50, 60 years ago. We've been warned. We've all been warned about this global warming, this crisisness that's now hit the planet. And for the people in America to be astonished by this just shows how narrow-minded, it shows how behind, it shows how ignorant that people have become in not understanding what we are constantly doing to this planet on a day-to-day, everyday basis. And it's really sad that it has taken this type of alarm just to be able to get some people's attention. There are some people out there that you won't never get their attention. There are some people out there that will never be convinced that we're doing something to the atmosphere pertaining to global warming. There are some people out there that you can't teach them the truth. They don't want to know nothing about the truth. It doesn't matter if it's the truth in the weather pertaining to Mother Nature, or it's the truth pertaining to our laws, or the truth about people being mean-spirited in regards towards people being discrimination against various people just because they're a little different than they are. There are some people out there you can't teach them the truth. You know why? Because the truth not be in them. And they don't want the truth in them. They want certain pieces of the truth. Pieces of the truth that benefit their lives. But the other part of the truth that's not going to benefit their lives, they don't want that in their lives. Because they actually see the truth as an enemy. That's what I said. They actually see the truth as an enemy. Because they themselves are not of the truth. Let's fast forward this and see if we can't possibly get
Texas,
some more data on the tornado breakout that hit over in the Nashville, Tennessee area along about 1 or 2 o'clock this morning. I'm sure there'll be some new data that'll show up. I just don't know when. In other words, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I got by just by the skin of my teeth. There we go. Right there. I got by just by the skin of my teeth last night towards feeling something that was...
You can get up to $25,000.
Feeling something that was abnormal and wasn't right, especially whenever the temperature increases 7-8 degrees over the night. Looking at the weather charts and everything, like I said, my alarm went off. It went off twice. First time it went off, I got up. Especially whenever I realized it was hailing outside. Let's see if they got any new data pertaining to the damage in Nashville, Tennessee. Forward it just a little bit. Here we go.
A deadly storm has devastated Nashville and the surrounding communities.
Details are still coming in, but we have the latest information right now on AccuWeather Early.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm meteorologist Laura Velasquez.
And I'm meteorologist Bernie Rayno.
The storm hit just before 1 a.m. Central Time. Authorities have now reported that 9 people across the state of Tennessee have lost their lives, perhaps up to 5 in the mid-state. Nashville fire crews have also reported that at least 40 buildings have collapsed. There are many others that have sustained significant damage. On top of that, thousands of homes and businesses are without power, and police are asking people to stay off the roads if possible.
This was obviously a very strong tornado. There are multiple homes damaged, multiple people injured, multiple people still trapped. We need your help. And that means if you can stay at your house, please stay home. There is a lot of traffic on the roadways, and that is getting in the way of our response. We will continue to message our community, and I know many probably want to go help those who have their homes damaged, but we simply can't allow you to go in those neighborhoods. It's too dangerous right now. There's gas lines that are leaking, power lines are on the ground, and the multiple emergency responders are responding to those who are injured and trying to get them the help that they need.
Right, this video shows the thunderstorm moving through Nashville. This shortly before 1 a.m. You could just see how widespread the storm was. Not only do you see the lightning, but Laura, you could see the flashes. Those are transformers that are likely going as that thunderstorm pushed on across the northern part of the city.
And the first tornado warning to come out for Davidson County was at 12:35 a.m. Central Time. Radar indicated tornado at that point. Very shortly thereafter, a secondary tornado warning was issued with what we'd call upgraded wording. They called it a PDS tornado warning, meaning a particularly dangerous situation that they had seen. It was cited a large and confirmed tornado that came through the city. Some of the towns that have been most impacted, areas from Germantown to Donaldson, 5 points east to Hermitage. Again, we have that number of 40 structures that have completely collapsed. Metro Nashville schools are closed today. Tennessee State University has reported damage. However, they were already on spring break.
Laura's going to take a look at that storm in just a second. We'll show you the thunderstorm that produced the tornadoes. Let me show you why these thunderstorms did form and why they were severe. It was a combination of moisture and energy that came together across Middle Tennessee. Here is the moisture in our water vapor loop here. You see all this white? And you can track the moisture. Where's it coming from? Well, you can track it right from the Eastern Pacific. At the same time, we had this energy in the form of a jet stream cascading south across the Central Plains states. And in particular, there's this little ribbon of energy that...
You see where they got their circle at right there? That's in the area where I'm at right here. And I'm actually right up in here is where I am. But last night, between what they was talking about, that energy coming from this way and that energy coming from this way, it all met right in here. And it come over here, I guess it was give or take around 10 o'clock. Maybe a little before 10 o'clock is when it hit. And my siren went off. And I got up. I put my pajamas on. And I went outside and checked things out. And thought, Lord, because I could look back towards the east. I could look back towards this way, towards the east, and I could see that she was intensifying. So I knew that somebody was going to be in trouble, either up towards the Tennessee River or maybe up towards Nashville. But we was fortunate that it didn't wind up right up on top of us whenever it was building. And sure enough, it hit with a vengeance. All these are disturbances coming from the atmospheric changes that are happening, that are making these tornadoes that much more lethal, dangerous. And if the truth be known, they're probably still off pertaining to their death toll. There'll probably be some more that they'll find. in the debris, because it's just now getting daylight to where they can get out there and actually see what's going on. It looks like basically almost like a bomb blowed up down there. I don't know. It looked like a Category 4, maybe a Category 5 tornado. May have been several tornadoes that come up in there. Pretty horrendous.
Came across northern Arkansas late last night, and that energy then pushed into western Kentucky. I'm showing you these wind gusts across the northern Rockies yesterday afternoon, because guess what this was associated with? That energy diving south across the plain states. Now that's specific.
See what he's saying? All that energy coming off the Rockies, shooting down through Missouri and Kansas, parts of Oklahoma, shot all the way down through Arkansas. 85, 76, 67 mile an hour winds. If you'll combine that with what was building down on the Gulf and having a meet basically right here in the meeting point, basically they was meeting right about at western Tennessee, then you have a recipe of a disaster, a combination of a formula of a disaster.
Energy that I'm highlighting, there it is. You can see that stripe of yellow and orange from
see right here, the closer these bars right here are, the closer these bars are, the faster that the speed's going. But right here's where she split through the Rockies. One side went towards Southern California, but then this other side at Denver shot down, coming down here. And then you got all this that merged right here. And that's the reason why you're looking at all the damage this morning in Nashville, Tennessee. It combined between the cold air, the hot air, and the moisture. You have a recipe of disaster.
Oklahoma and into northern Arkansas. It's almost like an arrow pointing to you where it was going to go. So that energy.
Matter of fact, Kentucky this morning up in Paducah had many incidences of hail where it was already starting to build in this area. Some of the hail was give or take about an inch in diameter. But it just so happens it didn't actually materialize in Kentucky. It was more south is where the energy was.
She went across western parts of Kentucky, and it's on the southern edge of this energy where we had all the wind, and that's where we had the tornadoes form. Because remember, when you're looking for severe weather, you're looking for energy. You need a lot of energy that's going to form thunderstorms and severe weather. How do we measure energy? Wind. And winds were increasing from 35 to about 55 to 60 miles per hour just above the surface. And that's why we had all the energy or the tornadoes. All right, Laura.
All right, we're going to leave it at that. Pray for the victims of those who fell prey to the storm last night up in Nashville, Tennessee. And once more, people need to really take global warming, including the President of the United States, more serious, because as we get further into this, we're going to see things just like the Bible talks about. We're going to see signs up onto the earth and signs up into the heavens such as man has never seen before, because of these traumatic events that us mortals, the Homo sapiens upon this planet, are basically creating. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. The more that society becomes irregular, the more that the weather becomes irregular. It's almost like a myriad of, as the people become displacent and irregular, so does the weather. It's almost like the weather has become bipolar. It's this way this day. It's this way that day. It's very unstable. It's very lethal whenever it becomes like it is right now. And it's been this way for quite some time. But now we're really seeing the true devastation of it, especially whenever you see what happened last night in Nashville. And it ain't the first storm that has hit in Nashville, and it ain't the first storm that has been devastating. These things are becoming more and more devastating as they're coming out of the blue.